everyone, Ben Cooper Radio, episode number 164. Can you tell I've been really on point with all the numbers so far? I bought myself an abacus as an early Christmas present, and I can now count, which is lovely. I have had a string of guests on the show recently, but myself and the Fox are back. Hello, Rachel.
Hello, Benny. We are back, and we are back with a vengeance. Leading up to Christmas, I believe we only have 5-6 weeks left.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I've even had Christmas music playing in... I was at the cinema, and they were playing Christmas music, and I just stood there. The only thing I could think about was, I hope that's not on repeat, because the staff must get really annoyed.
Yeah, actually, I was in John Lewis in London on last weekend, so it was like I think it was like the 1st of November, and they were playing all this Christmassy music, and like all the Christmas decorations were up. And I was like, I love the festive periods, and I was like, not sure if this is a bit early for me to be getting festive. I think like early December, like first week of December, definitely, like well into it. Christmas jumpers come out, you know, the onesies come out, all that kind of stuff. I'm not quite sure that I'm ready for it just yet.
Yeah, I can't wait to wear my Christmas jumper. That's awesome.
Oh, you had an outstanding jumper last year when we went for dinner.
Yeah, I wore it to dinner. I was all Christmassy and no one else was.
No, I know. Well, I was doing festive spirit shots instead. In fact, I believe I have a photo of you and I doing a shot together. Ching ching.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that was the only shot I did. Just for the photo.
It wasn't bought by me either. It was bought by a friend of mine who's a complete reprobate. So in the Christmas spirit, we had to partake.
Yeah, I was driving, so stay safe.
Yes.
So we've got a barrage of questions today. We've got some nice different angles today.
We've got like a whole range of them today. So let's get cracking.
Yes.
This question is from Jeff. Dear Ben and Rachel, warm regards from Southern California. I finally made time to write and express how much your podcast has impacted my life. I've been listening for about 16 months and I have maybe 4 or 5 podcasts I haven't heard. Your no bullshit approach to education and empowerment is refreshing and addicting. You are truly pioneers in the field of human performance. Your work has helped me learn about my own health and nutrition and how to build a lifelong plan for optimal health and nutrition. It has also encouraged me to pursue formal education and certification to become a coach to help others in their own personal journey. It is hard to balance it all, and I'm slowly chipping away as I train and play rugby, number 9 like you, Ben, manage a non-profit, help plan my wedding, full-time work, and maintain a social life. It will happen though, as I learn to manage my time more wisely through your personal story and business advice. Rachel, you're a badass. To expand on that fundamental truth, you are a model example of what a strong woman looks like, and it's amazing that you encourage other women to be comfortable in their own skin and woman up. I think this is crucial in society where women have become pressured to hold themselves to an unrealistic and unhealthy standards. Pinterest models, Hollywood celebrities, and cover girls, and can also be looked down upon by their male counterparts. I encourage my fiancée to check out your work and follow you on Twitter, and hopes that the two of you will become friends, as she's a badass too. Ben, you are genuinely a good person. In a world where people take themselves too seriously and pretend to have all of the answers, only to alienate their followers through their ignorance and double standards, you jubilantly educate and encourage your followers. You've become an expert at your craft, and you're able to effectively communicate only in a way that excites. My personal milestones: bench 255 pounds, squat 385 pounds, deadlift 435 pounds, run a marathon in 1 hour 45. I weigh 190 pounds.
Whoa. Run a half marathon.
Sorry, I did.
Otherwise we're going to be like, man, who is this guy?
No, funny. Sorry, just on a side note, I've just taken on a client who is actually a marathon runner, so I've kind of got my head in a bit of a marathon theme at the moment. Half marathon at 1 hour 45. I weigh 190 pounds and 10% body fat, and get even below 10%. Lately, I've been learning more about training frequency and recovery, which ironically has taught me how little I know and how much there is to learn. Thanks again for the magnesium tips, as I've increased my dosage at night, and it has immensely benefited my recovery. I appreciate and value your time, so I'll end this message here. Once again, Ben and Rachel, thank you for your work and thank you for your lives. Both of you have gone through tremendous adversity to achieve what you have, and we are thankful for what you guys provide. I hope that one day to meet you and shake your hands. Until then, stay awesome. Jeff from South Pasadena, Los Angeles.
Well, Jeff, thank you very much for your kind words. That was very kind, and I like to think what we're doing is awesome. Now, the reason why I put this in here, because a question hasn't been asked, as you have noticed. I meet a lot of people when I go to events. People come up to me and they say, thanks for the podcast, thanks for this, you've inspired me with this, that kind of stuff. And then there's a handful of people that they come up to you, and it's strange because these individuals almost seem overly friendly to you, like we're already friends. And I get that you know me very well because you listen to the podcast. It is like, I've shared my life story with you. I've had many instances where people have come up to me and they've started to just sort of speak to me as if they know me and gone, actually, you know nothing about me, I just know everything about you. And I find that endearing. I think it's nice. But these people that I'm getting at that come up to me and they kind of almost stand there and it's like we're really friendly and chummy and they're like, oh, I listen to the podcast and that kind of thing. And, and they then start telling me about all their problems in their life. Like, I've got this problem, I've got that problem, I haven't done this yet, as if I'm already going to pass judgment on them. Now, I will pass judgment on no one. I don't have the right to do that. Now, what I do have the right to do is judge someone when someone isn't taking responsibility or ownership for where they are right now. Now, when you come up to me and you know all the stuff to do, like I've taught you for ages on the podcast, but you will not take responsibility for your own problems, your own issues, your own life circumstances, which I get might not be completely in your hands right now, but it doesn't mean you can't make a plan to change it in 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And this individual, Jeff, talked about adversity. Like, I might not have had something really horrible happen in my life, like I lost both my legs or something that is truly life-changing, but everyone at some point has had to work through problems. Lack of money, bad situation, not getting work, having a health issue, loads of stuff. I've been through loads of it. Rachel's been through loads of it. So if you're this individual listening to the podcast right now and you're sitting there going, I'm making excuses to myself, I'm not, then you're not taking ownership, and you have to take ownership from today. Because I don't want to meet you at a seminar and have to listen to your problems. I will help you with your problems. I will help anyone with everything if you are taking ownership and empowering yourself. But if you're standing there and using them as excuses why you can't change, then I am very reluctant to help you because you're not taking ownership of yourself.
If you try and defend, justify, blame, deflect, compare, any of these things or any of those 5 things and there are more, that's your ego talking. So basically, you need to learn to take responsibility for your own actions. And the reason you are in the situation that you're in today is a direct correlation to the decisions that you have currently made to date. So if you want that to change, then you have to start making better decisions and start owning those decisions and taking responsibility for them. Granted, we all make stupid decisions. Own it. And then, that's when your life starts getting better, when you stop being the victim and start taking responsibility.
Totally. So I don't mean to moan, but I am having a bit of a moan. But it's just so important. You just have to. Where I am right now in my life at 29 is a result of the actions that I've taken from, let's say, 18 onwards. When I've been in a position where I'm a man, I've left school, my life is in my hands. So if I look at myself right now and go, oh, I'm not happy with this situation, then it might seem that I'm not in control of that situation or something has not led me there, but it has. All the decisions that I've made over the last 10, 11 years have got me to this place. And inadvertently, some of the things have happened as a result of that. And I know there's always outliers, but I'm talking about, the 98% here, which pre-exists. So please don't move through the rest of this podcast without sitting there thinking, whatever happens on the rest of today and all future podcasts I listen to, I'm going to take ownership of that, and I'm going to take responsibility, and I'm going to do what needs to be done and do the things that I keep promising myself.
And absolutely, like, learn to commit. You're not going to get very far in life. You can have the best coach in the world. And one thing that I won't take on any clients personally as a coach, I will not take on clients unless I get full commitment from them. And I turn away a lot of people because I don't believe that they have what it takes in order to be able to change. Like, when I ask what they are on a commitment level, they say, oh yeah, I'm pretty committed. I'm like, really? Okay, so what's that on a scale of 1 to 10? Well, I've got this that's coming up. I've got a friend's party. I've got I've got this social occasion. I'm working long hours. I'm like, that is not commitment. Because guess what? Every fucking body has social commitments, work dues, eating out all of the time. This week I've worked 16, 17-hour days every single day. And yet I've still managed to find time to go to the gym. I still managed to find time to make myself dinner at night. And I still manage to prepare my meals for the next day because I do everything in a slow cooker. So everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. You choose how you decide to use it. Nobody else's choice, yours.
We shall move on.
Before this becomes a big rant. Because we have plenty more to say on that. Anyway, but however, I will say that those who do commit and do take action they get such massive benefits from it, and they're fully supported in that process. Anyway, yes, we'll leave that there. We'll start this on another day. Anyway, this next question is from Jason. Hi, Ben and Rachel. I hope this email finds you well. I will have to start this email with the customary accolades and compliments. I absolutely love what you both do and represent. I found your podcast after a long time and has an alright scope of nutrition and training, completing the certificate of exercise nutrition. However, the more I listened, the more I loved your neutral, balanced, health-focused approach in this industry. If more people were like you two, there would be much more focus on helping the masses rather than the infighting and bickering. I've also tried the TDT products. They are effing amazing. The performance spray is so subtle yet so effective. Anyway, to my question. I have a lot of vegan friends on my Facebook, and a lot of them demonize meat and animal proteins as carcinogens, and that anyone consuming animal meat is doomed to terminal illness. The famous/infamous China study is thrown around a lot, yet I'm not convinced. To me, the culprit of these illnesses shown is not from the excessive consumption of animal protein, but rather a lack of consumption of fruit and veggies and micronutrition, which seems to be the norm for the meat-eating part of these studies. I was curious as to your opinions on meat as a carcinogen as part of a balanced diet and whether there is some research to support this. Sorry for the long wind-up, but I just wanted to give some context to my understanding. Love you guys and love your work. Kind regards from Down Under, Jason.
See, this is a very timely question because this has obviously been in the media a lot very recently. I think there was an article saying that bacon's as bad as smoking, and you're going to die. Red meat is always in and out of the media saying you're going to get colorectal cancer from it and stuff like that. Now, it's a really interesting one because when scientists do research, what type of people are they doing these research on? So for a start, huge amount of the population is very unhealthy. Mm-hmm. Very unhealthy. Taking on board all sorts of food. So they never go away and test a big section of the population, analyse a load of biomarkers and say, right, let's take a healthy population. And, by healthy, we're looking outside of the standard stuff like blood pressure, heart rate. We should maybe look at people's hormones, their digestive permeability, some intelligent markers that really digs deep on an individual's health, almost like you're getting an advanced Bupa health check. Now, you take a load of unhealthy people and you start to correlate a processed form of meat. So quite often they're looking at things like bacon, sausages, ham, more processed meat. Now, individuals that eat that kind of food tend to, correlation-wise, have poorer lifestyle habits. Don't exercise, don't eat fruits and vegetables, don't sleep properly, maybe smoke, maybe drink excessively. You add that up all together, and that is just a recipe for disease, cancer, all sorts of stuff. Now, I'm not pointing fingers or doing anything. I'm just saying that a lot of this research is done when the correlations add up to say that, yes, this could be almost like the pin in the balloon for cancer. And colorectal cancer, if you're eating a lot of processed meat, a lot of those ingredients are going to be sitting in the bowel for a long time. So the one place that it can easily manifest will be in the bowel. Hence, cancer is common in the bowel with people that eat processed meat. Now, I would probably suggest that we don't eat processed meat all the time. Even stuff like bacon, sausages, it's not a staple of the diet because we know that there is the link. But I think that if you have balance in your lifestyle, all of this is so minimal. And the problem is we as coaches, me and Rachel sitting here right now, don't have a massive argument to have because we're talking to people that are even a lot more healthier than the general and average population. Mm-hmm. We don't have as much sitting there waiting for us disease-wise because we are making better lifestyle choices. Now, to come to the China study was done where the main protein source was casein. And we know that casein is often poorly manufactured, not filtered properly, and is quite inflammatory anyway. So they're doing it on a protein that is their sole protein source, casein, in the diet. Now, no one eats like that. No one in the world eats just casein. No one. So again, that's a little bit of a poor correlation. You can't say, oh, it's protein that's a culprit. No, it's not protein. It's that quite inflammatory protein source that you've put in on top of a population that might not be overly healthy in the first place. Right, I've run out of breath.
Take a breather and have a drink.
What are your thoughts on it, Rachel?
Well, I've got a couple of thoughts. I think we have to, first of all, distinguish between... Actually, highlight here, what is red meat? Because in the study, they talk about sausages, bacon, processed meat, ham, all that kind of stuff. Well, what about the other side of red meat, where you have free-range, if not organic, or certainly grass-fed, lamb, beef, and you have the real meat that is actually from the cow, and it doesn't include the cow's hooves and eyeballs and everything else. So I think that there is a distinct difference. So, and the advice that I give my clients is, you know what, it's the 10% rule. So if on a Sunday morning for breakfast you really fancy some bacon, you know what, you want sausages for dinner one night, you know what, that's fine. That's not a problem. Just make sure that the sausages that you're getting are very high quality and they have a lot of meat in them and not much other stuff. That's the first thing I'll say. So I never say no to any foods. The second thing that I will say is that I personally do not think that there is a problem eating red meat, whether it comes from lamb, in Australia, kangaroo, beef, anything like that, presuming it is from a very good source and it is not eaten daily. Now, I know some bodybuilders, some guys in the fitness industry who eat, 2 to 3 serves of meat. I kid you not, 2 to 3 steaks a day. I think that is a little bit excessive, but however, if you want steak for breakfast 2-3 times a week, not a problem. If you want, lamb for dinner here and there, not a problem. Again, we have to come back to what is moderation. But I do think that we have to define the difference between the two. There's the cancer causing, cancer in inverted commas, causing meats being, bacon and your sausages. Again, with the lifestyle of being sedentary, unhealthy in general, not exercising, not eating enough fruits and vegetables. And then we've got the other side of meat where, you can have a really nice fillet steak, grass-fed fillet steaks, full of great fats and, of course, protein, and heaps and heaps of micronutrients. I think there's 2 different stories here and 2 different sides of the coin. However, again, are you going to eat steak every single day? No. Several times a day? No. It's moderation.
Talking of fillet steak, why would you do that when sirloin and ribeye are better?
No way. Fillet steak is the way forward.
No, it's not. It's just leaner. It just ends up... You have to choose such a high quality cut of meat when you get fillet so it doesn't dry out.
Oh. No, you don't dry it out.
You need more fat in it. You need fat in steak for it to taste amazing.
Yeah, of course you do. But if you get a good fillet steak, let's be honest here, Wagyu is the way forward.
Fucking Wagyu.
But if you could good fillet steak, pan fry it in butter, just so like you like brown off the top and the bottom, and then stick it in the oven just with a little bit of Celtic sea salt. Oh my god, it is the bomb.
I know how to cook a steak. Thanks for the fucking cookery lesson. But come on,
just checking because you're butchering your fillet steak. Fillet steak is the best. It's the most tender and it melts in your mouth.
We're gonna have to disagree there. I'm sorry.
Let's be honest. If you put any steak in front of me, I'm gonna eat it.
I think some of the problem that we have with kind of like claims and stuff and health and the best decisions that we make is that people want and need like a threshold level. Like the government comes out and says, right, only eat red meat. I think is it like 2 or 3 times a week, and then they say eat fish 1 to 2 times a week. Eat veg 5 times a day, that kind of thing. And it's almost like, what are we looking for? What's the safe upper limit? And the thing is we didn't know, and we don't know, sorry. So even if the government came out and said, right, we think you shouldn't eat bacon more than 3 times a week, we can sit here and then go, okay, I'll take that on board. But who was that research done in? Again, it's going to come back to people that are already very unhealthy, or have a certain amount of toxic build-up, poor cellular health, etc. Now, we're not those people. I eat a gazillion antioxidants every day. Like, I had a pomegranate and a passion fruit just in my breakfast. There's probably more antioxidants than half the UK get in a week, of their nutrition. So I'm someone that's very healthy. So I like to think if I'm going to have some sausages, that anything potentially bad in those sausages is going to get mopped up in the grand scheme of my diet. Now the problem is, I can't make you any promises because I'm still speaking hypothetically. And that's why we say, right, 90% of the time do the right thing. And 10%, which is a small amount, do the wrong thing or be suboptimal, however you want to paint it. Now we can do that because I know that genuinely that 90% is really, really good high quality food. Now I can't say that to the general population because their perspective on what should be that 90% is still not in line with what my 90% should be, which is probably at least 40 to 50% of that even daily calorie content or kind of mass as fruit and vegetables, which is the cornerstone and elixir of life, really.
I think as well, I hear a lot of trainers saying, oh, it's ridiculous that, we should put limitations on these things. I think that for the general public and general population, you actually need to have guidelines and limitations on these things. You have to remember that, I'm speaking to the trainers out there, like the majority of your clients you have to understand, don't overestimate how much they know. So you have to impose some guidelines on them initially until you educate them and you bring them up to scratch on what balanced lifestyle and healthy nutrition really is. Because still, the majority of the population if they're on a diet, they still try and go for low-fat, calorie-controlled or low-carbohydrate diets. Now, each of those can be used at certain points in time. But, when we're looking at, for example, yogurt, now I'm back in the UK, I can say yogurt again. If we're looking at yogurt, I would say the majority of the population would go for, and if you ask them what was healthier, a full-fat natural Greek yogurt, or a calorie-controlled fruit yogurt that is low-fat. And you said to the general public, which is healthier, they, hands down, most of the time, they would go for the fruit-filled, sugar-filled, low-fat yogurts. Now, this is what we are dealing with on a global scale. So in order for us to take baby steps to take the population from where they are now to where they really need to be for lifelong health and longevity, we do need to impose some limitations on them. So going back to the meat scenario, I think it's a good idea that we say you shouldn't, it is unadvisable to eat more than 2 to 3 serves of bacon and sausage a week. I think that is a decent limitation for somebody who is currently unhealthy, probably not exercising, not eating fruits and vegetables, to tell them they can only eat bacon and sausage 3 times a week. I think that's a pretty decent guideline.
Yeah. Cool.
Next question.
Next question.
Awesome. This question is from Gail. Hi, Ben and Rachel. Thanks for a really enjoyable podcast. I've been an avid follower of your podcast for the last 11 months or so. I just wanted your views on how I can change my training to keep pushing the weight loss for my health and some definition. Let me give you some background. I'm 36, mum of two, who's lost 43 pounds since 10 months ago, having my second child. My weight is now 12 stone 3, which is below my pre-baby weight. I also work night shifts, 2 night shifts a week as a nurse in an emergency department, so I'm pretty active. Health-wise, I have suffered from arthritis since 16. I have a replaced knee with the other one on its way, and old thoracic spine fractures. So I'm limited with deep squats and running, but race mountain bikes now and again. I eat a fairly high protein diet with porridge in the morning, fish or chicken with carbs at lunch, and I only eat carbs in the evening twice a week, as otherwise I feel bloated. I'm pretty motivated to exercise as I enjoy it, and I try to do 20 Ks on the bike once a week off roads with hills. Fitness wise, I normally do 2 to 3 spin classes a week, high intensity interval training 1 to 2 times a week, resistance ab work 3 times a week, and body pump once, with a gym session of bike, cross train and weight session of squats, lunges with 20 kilo bags, and tricep work on the TRX. Wow, I'm already exhausted just reading this. Okay. I'm struggling now to push forwards and drop more weight and become more defined. Is it too early to see changes 10 months post-baby, or should I be looking at revamping my strength work and move to more heavy, low rep work? Any advice and honesty is appreciated. Thanks, Gail.
So, the reason why I put this in is because this, for me, is a prime example of someone that is spinning all the right wheels in their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I look at this as a coach, I go, well, tell you what, there's 2 or 3 really easy fixes here, and that will probably change everything. And that's how sometimes how simple nutrition is. But you have to stop spinning the wheels, sit down, and get really critical. Put everything on paper in front of you and digest it all. So Gail, look at your question. Look at your own question right now. You're not losing weight. So the first thing we need to look at, are you in a calorie deficit? Are you eating less than you burn off? Are you maybe eating too little? Now you might be in such a severe calorie deficit that your body is trying to fight something with the stress. Now if a body is highly stressed, it will hold on to weight. And I know this is a bit unambiguous in the literature, but I have coached so many people that have an awful lot of stress and they're doing an awful lot and their body just won't budge. It needs to be in a better state of homeostasis. So potentially your stress is that you have kids. You're not sleeping well enough because you work night shifts and sometimes that throws you out. And you're training an awful lot. Man, you're training a lot. Like you train way more than I do. And I think if I did that, so you got spin 2 to 3 times a week. Let's be conservative and say twice. Yeah. You got hit 1 to 2 times a week, so let's call that 2. So you've now already got 4 really aggressive training sessions. I mean, spinning is hard work. I've done it. It hurts. Hit training is hard work. That's why we can only really do about 20 minutes of it, and then you're screwed. Then you've got resistance abs 3 times a week, body pump once a week, gym session, bike cross train, and then a weight set. That's like 9 training sessions in a week. I just don't know how you're doing it.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, you're on your feet, you're running around with kids. If I had you at a maintenance calorie intake, I don't know your body weight, but I think it would be at least 2,800.
Mm-hmm.
At least with the amount you're doing. And I bet you're probably eating nowhere near that.
Mm.
So Gail, this is what I want you to do. I want you to be critical on your own question. I want you to look at your stress. You're training too much. Your diet needs to fall in line with your energy output. Your diet needs to support your health. I do not think your diet is supporting your health enough now. You said you eat a high protein diet with porridge in the morning. Now, porridge on its own doesn't have enough protein content, so you need some protein at breakfast. Doesn't sound like you have any veggies or fruits there. I want veggies and fruits in every meal that you eat, at least 2 servings. You say you're eating fish, chicken with carbs at lunch. By the sounds of it, that sounds like a pretty skimpy meal, 400 or 500 calories tops. You need some fruits and vegetables in there. You need more calories. And again, don't avoid carbs in the evening. If you think it's making you bloated, work out why those carbs are making you bloated. So it's another reason you might not be losing weight is that you're eating foods that are inflaming your bowel. Could be all sorts. Could be FODMAPs, gluten, dairy. It could be loads of different stuff. But again, you need to be critical. Write down your diet. Look at what's on paper. Go, oh, I got bloated from that meal. Why did I get bloated? Gail, you've listened to 162 episodes with us so far. We've given out all this information, and I don't want to sound like I'm being nasty. All I'm saying is you now need to get critical. And if anyone else is in the same situation, like Gail, you're missing 2 or 3 things, sit down. Just you and yourself, piece of paper, get critical, and I promise you the answer will be right in front of you.
Absolutely, and the only thing that I will add here is, there is, in order to become defined, that essentially means building muscle. It is very hard to build muscle, Gail, on the current training program that you're doing. You have way too much cardio in there. In order to be building muscle, you need to lift weights with intensity and with the intention of growing muscle. So in order to be able to see it, you need to grow it. So I would definitely switch to more of a weight training, resistance training based program where you're lifting a minimum 3 to 4 times a week and definitely reducing the amount of cardio you're doing.
Yeah, I would probably suggest 3 times a week with the weights. Because Rachel, if you said 3 to 4, I bet she'll do 4, and then she'll add something else in, and then she'll still be doing too much. So I think doing like a full body program 3 times a week.
Here's the thing, and I'm gonna push my own product here. Like the Athletic Fox Blueprint is classically designed for somebody like Gail, somebody who has been on that yo-yo diet, has over-exercised in the past, and just wants a consistent, a basic plan to get you from A to B, to give you something that you know exactly what you need to do every single time that you step foot in the gym in order to look defined, to get leaner, and actually to have a little bit more balance in your lifestyle. That would definitely be something that, Gail, it's worth looking into whether you join my program or somebody else's. I would suggest that you look to get yourself a coach, or certainly look to get yourself on a program where you can, where somebody can help you and guide you in the gym in particular.
There you have it.
Awesome. Next question. This is a really interesting question. And I don't think we've had one like this on the podcast before. So this question is from to Ben and Rachel. Your dedication to helping and educating others is one to be admired. A passion of which you share is a great characteristic, and it's also very infectious. I want to thank you both for each of your time every week. My question isn't nutrition or sports related. It's more of a general question for advice. I've just started working as a teacher in a new school this year, and my boss, head of the year, is a witch. She belittles her members of staff in the year. She ensures you understand your questions are stupid and silly. She snaps and walks off in a huff when something doesn't go her way. She's a control freak. She says that she wants new ideas from a fresh perspective, and then when you give them, she shouts them down and refuses to accept change. She is not helpful when I or other members of staff who are new to the school and need to understand how things are run. I would love to know how you would handle this. How would you deal with a continual negative atmosphere and the negative comments and the feeling you're not doing things which are good enough? I'm struggling to believe in myself as a good teacher, and I feel very deflated. Any ideas would be incredible. Thank you, Alice.
Fascinating question, and that's why I threw this in, because I just think there's going to be so many people listening to this, whether it's their work environment, friends environment, where there is something negative that you've got to work out how to circumnavigate. Now, I'll give my angle on this question, and then Rachel can give hers, because she might deal with it a little bit differently. Now, when you're dealing with an individual like this that's very negative, it's not your fault. That's the first thing to understand. It's their fault. It's a reflection on where they are and their inadequacies. She won't take new ideas on board because what's happened is she's read a management book. The management book has said, get your team's ideas, make them feel involved, make them feel valued. But her deep down underlying thing is that she's a control freak, and that if she doesn't make the decision, then she will not feel in control of it. She'll feel that someone else is almost taking her space. That's the beauty of being a manager and knowing how to deal with people, is how to incorporate people into your decision making process and make them feel involved, but you're just guiding that process. You're a facilitator. Now, what I think you have to do is, for me, I would break down the dynamics of your work environment. So work out when her decision making comes into play, where your decision making comes into play, and if you have any line managers in between that, because I can imagine she sounds almost like the boss. You sound like a teacher, and there might be some like departmental managers. I would call them line managers in the middle. So what happens is she'll come into this environment, she'll want ideas, and you can give them, but almost have in the back of your mind, well, I'll give them, but it doesn't matter, she's not going to take them. So preface that, so that when it doesn't get taken on board, you don't feel pissed off. Now, what needs to happen is you need to feel that you're affecting change in your work environment, to feel that you're valued and that your energy is well spent. So you need to focus your time and energy on where you can affect change. And you need to take positive or make positive mantras to get around this. So for example, if you can affect the children's learning experience, which you can, you create a mantra around that. One of the key parts of my day today, so by the way, this is me now talking to myself in my head. One of my key mantras, one of my key aspects of my work today is I'm going to make the children feel valued and add things to their life. I'm going to affect their change, and I see value in helping these children. So that's one thing that you can say to yourself that allows you to take, some kind of feedback and direction over what you do during your day. Another thing that you can do is, right, and this is me talking in my head again, I can't affect the school from the top down. I'm working with an individual that will not accept change. But I know that there's X line manager that will listen to my ideas, and I'll be able to affect change in my department by working with them. So I'm not going to be underhanded and go above my school or my head of year or my head teacher. I'm going to work with my departmental manager, try and form an alliance, and then I'm going to try and affect change that way and allow my positive energy and actions to affect the people that matter, which is the children, and not the head teacher's ego. What you can't feel you want to do is prove yourself to that person. You cannot prove yourself to that person. And if you ever are able to prove yourself to that person, it will just be done through your actions and you not throwing it in their face. They just have to notice. So this is why you can go into your work environment and work with someone else, affect positive change where it really matters, and then all you can do is hope over time that that person notices and go, you've done really well there, well done, I wish I'd thought of that. Now the chances are they might not say that, or they probably won't say that. So don't expect them to say that. I'll give you a real world example. I mentioned a while ago that I'd gone through therapy about me working with a therapist to work out how I think around my relationship with my dad. Now my relationship with my dad was always a slightly broken one. He left the home very young, was never really around, he wasn't emotionally there. Now part of my actions when I was younger was me trying to prove to him that I was almost of worth. Like, hi dad, here I am, pay attention to me, at least pick up the phone. Now you're kind of doing the same thing with your head teacher. You're trying to almost get them to notice and appreciate your work ethics. But I had to realise that my dad was never going to do that. It wasn't in his character or nature. So I had to repackage my actions to say, why am I doing these things? I'm not doing these things anymore to please my dad. I'm doing these things for myself. I'm doing these things to prove to myself that I can do these things and these are part of my life and this is where I want to progress. So hopefully that kind of example can help you sort of understand how you need to just repackage your actions and where you focus your positive energy. If you try and focus your positive energy on the negative energy source, it will only dissipate. So focus your energy and your mantra and your mindset on the children, on your line managers, on the people that can help you.
I've just been writing a few notes here because there's a few things that I want to add. First of all, your head teacher sounds like she needs a good shag. But aside from that, she also has.
I just find an appropriate place to laugh. That's funny. But you're right. She probably needs to get laid.
Seriously, she does, man. Like, she does. She needs to line up. Anyway, it's her ego. So basically, the ego is there to protect us. So you have to become evolved and get to the point where you understand where your head teacher is coming from. Now, unfortunately, it is a place of massive insecurity. So one of the books that I know I've mentioned this on a podcast before, one of the books that I'd highly recommend you read in order to understand self, insecurities and ego is A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I don't know how to pronounce the surname. That book is phenomenal and it will help you with your understanding of human psychology and why people behave the way that they do. Now, when you understand this, people like your head teacher aren't intimidating anymore, because I see when I'm confronted with somebody like that, all I see is a massive ego and huge insecurities. So immediately, that's not confronting to me at all. I actually see a very scared and frightened person who is hiding behind a wall of aggression or defensiveness, deflection, all of the things we talked about earlier: defend, deflect, blame, make others feel insecure, belittle others. All that is doing is masking insecurities in themselves. So one of the things, I mean, this is something that personally I do, and I have the confidence to do this, but it's something that you could consider doing. And it's saying to the head teacher, look, I'm just curious to know what sort of ideas or changes that you're seeking. And by opening with that phrase, I'm just curious to know, because that's not an attacking phrase. It is a very neutral phrase. I'm just curious to know. And she'll probably turn around, because the ego in her will say, what do you mean? We're like, what do you want? What do you mean? What do you want from me? And that is your time to display vulnerability. Because as soon as you display vulnerability to somebody, they will soften towards you. So your response might be something like, well, when we have these meetings, myself and my peers have suggested a few things that we have felt of value. And I just feel that these suggestions have been immediately shut down with any thought. And that's making me feel quite inadequate. And it's really affecting my position as a teacher, and it's really affecting my self-confidence. And I just really like to know from you what I can do better. Like what, and I want to be able to help and I want to be able to contribute, but I'd like some guidance on, what you think. Like, just give me some guidance on, the ideas that you might have, so that I can go away and I can percolate those ideas and perhaps come up with something a little more useful. That is a very non-confrontational way to deal with somebody who has a massive ego. Now, when I'm facing a situation like that, it takes a lot of courage for me to have that conversation, because my ego is in me fighting, and it wants to turn around and say, well, fuck you, how fucking dare you speak to me like that, you piece of shit, fuck off, I'll go and do this by myself. That's immediately my gut reaction of how I want to deal with something like that. However, over time, you have to realize that feeling in you, and that feeling of wanting to defend your ideas, is your own ego. So therefore, you need to put that aside and address it in a very non-confrontational way. Be vulnerable with it. Use the phrase, I'm just curious. And every time, I feel vulnerable and I would like to do better. These are non-confronting things that even somebody with a massive ego cannot come back at.
Top advice. Would you, in terms of what I said in your advice, Rachel, would you almost, for a period of time, work to do what you have suggested, and then if it doesn't work, go at it from my angle? Because really, your angle is a short win. If you can get in there and stimulate that conversation, then that is the perfect scenario, because you then have a happy line of communication.
For sure. I mean, the other thing is that you have to be confident enough to do that. And just, I think, I mean, initially, if anything, I do it the reverse way. So, I mean, your way is certainly, it's almost like kind of like sneaking in the back door, if you like. It's a way of sort of, starting to get your fingers into the pies without actually confronting the demon itself initially. But I do think it would be important for Alex to certainly start reading, and just as soon as you start reading and you start understanding ego, human psychology, behavior, and you understand the traits of ego, which is deflect, blame, defend, knock down, shut down, all of these things, then these people to you who may appear to be intimidating now are not intimidating anymore, and that gives you it allows you to be confident and to be able to have these conversations in a very neutral manner, a neutral perspective. So it's something that I would recommend that she read up about it, get some advice on it first, whilst working, because I think this has to be a two-way thing. It may be that you get some generic feedback from your head teacher, and look, it might be useless feedback. However, that conversation that you have with that head teacher, that is going to percolate in her head. You can't have a conversation like that without two people walking away and reflecting on that very honest, open and vulnerable conversation. So I would do the two.
I think one point that might be interesting to pick up on is that there is a difference between being vulnerable and being weak.
100%.
Now,
100%. You've got to be very strong to be vulnerable.
Exactly. Now, if you are in that situation where you're being vulnerable but being strong about your position, they can only show humility to that, and that allows them to open up and be vulnerable and accepting themselves. That's different than you just kind of like going inside yourself, trying to react, but not actually being vulnerable. You're just kind of like sheepishly reacting. I don't really know how to properly describe kind of almost weakness in that environment. But, I just talked to you about the example with my dad. That's me being honest, open and vulnerable, but I'm not being weak about it. I'm owning that part of myself. I'm being strong about it, and I'm sharing it, and I'm allowing you to come into that thought process with me. That's not me being weak and looking for kind of compassion from you. So don't feel that you doing that makes you feel or seem weak, because it doesn't. It makes you feel strong.
Absolutely. And, speaking of vulnerability, it's been like the theme, I guess, for me personally, over the past sort of 3 to 4 months, giving up everything that I built in Australia to move back to the UK. And it's been a very trying time. There have been lots of tears. There have been lots of self-doubt in that time. I've set myself a challenge now coming back to the UK. I'm starting a whole new business here. Yes, I'm leaving my business in Australia. And I'll continue to expand that, but I'm actually setting up a whole new business here in the UK. So that is vulnerability. Like that, like God, I felt so fucking vulnerable over the past couple of months, because it's been not known what's going to happen. You leave safety and security, but that's where you grow, in that space between when you leave your safe and secure space. And it's sometimes nice to have safety and security. That's great. But also, unless you're truly happy in that space, you have to grow the balls and step outside it, display vulnerability, but strength with it, in order to move forwards and progress with your life.
I'm going to end the podcast there. I think it's a timely way to end. We've got one question left. We'll save it till next time.
Okay.
Please, if you're listening to this, just reflect on it. You don't have to take action straight away. What we do, and you've been with me for 163 episodes now. It's a long time. Okay, we've learned a lot. You know a lot about nutrition, mindset, training, all sorts of stuff. We're at a point in our lives now, and I know you're at a point where the way forward is to take responsibility, to be reflective, to be critical, to be honest, to be vulnerable, to be brave. All these things are a lot of your next step. And when I meet you at an expo or a seminar or somewhere cool, because I will be travelling a lot more in 2016, you'll have a lot more chances to meet me. I want to have these conversations where it's just positive. You're just trying to ask me for that kind of next tip or bit of advice or some clarification, rather than you haven't taken responsibility, or you haven't been critical, or you haven't been honest, or you haven't been vulnerable. So that's what I want you to do off the back of today. I want you to say to yourself, I'm going to make this commitment. I'm going to be responsible. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to make the decision that I've been wanting to make for a while and just haven't known how to. You do know how to. Sometimes it's just a case, and Nike say it, you've just got to do it.
That's right. Just do it. Commit and execute.
Right, thank you for joining us on the show. You can find out more about the Rachel Guy by going to athleticfox.com or finding her as Athletic Fox on all the social platforms and as Rachel Guy on Facebook. You know me on all the social networks, Ben Coomber. Please chat to us, like say something on Twitter, tag us in, let us know what you thought of the show, share your thoughts, maybe even tweet us and tell us what your action is.
That would be amazing.
When I had the cooking caveman on the show, George Bryant, I had so many tweets where people said, these are my 5 actions. This is what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to going for a walk with my partner, going to the cinema to see the new James Bond. We had so many tweets. Perhaps you can tweet me and Rachel and show your vulnerability and strength and say, what are you going to do as a result of today? Are you going to become more responsible? Are you going to become stronger? Tell us. And we will talk to you back. We always talk to you back. So say something on Twitter. Say something whatever platform you prefer. And we will reach back out to you.
Awesome.
Me and Rachel will be back on the show very soon. In the meantime, stay awesome. But more importantly, make that commitment to yourself. Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 163. So, last episode, we got into kind of the art and the science of bodybuilding with Mr. Stephen Box.